Greetings, fencers. This is the next episode about military saber. We'll be going through the 6 standard cuts and how to power them. First, we'll look at how to hold the sword. We don't really want to use a hammer grip. We want to use a handshake grip to allow the point to be used and have more reach and mobility. For lighter sabers, a thumb grip can be used to allow more control with the point. This, however, sacrifices some cut power and hewing potential. My saber is heavy and is not very suitable for a thumb grip. You also don't want to overextend your wrist in cuts. Keep it straight. We'll practice just going through the cut lines, starting at the beginning and cutting all the way through. Number 1 is diagonally downwards from the right, 2 from the left, 3 diagonally upwards from the right, 4 from the left, 5 horizontally from the right, and 6 from the left. Once you have those memorized, add the lunge to it. Remember the structure from the previous video. Left leg propels, back straight, hand on hip. We won't be using these positions to start cuts while fencing. They're just to practice the full cut line. Then start stopping the cuts in the middle. I generally just call it long point after the German system. It helps with control, strength, and entering into combat or engaging. Your opponent will often parry your cuts, leaving them in this position. Your bottom 2 fingers should tighten on the sword to help bring the point forward, and your arms need to fully extend to use skeletal structure instead of muscle strength. Make sure the cut is synchronized with the lunge. Your sword should be hitting when the foot is landing, not after or before. You'll be off balance and lose range if the cut is too soon, and you'll likely be hit or impaled if your body leads. The sword is there to protect you. Now add the cuts into drills. You can use the hallway drill and 4 directions drill from the previous video, and add the sword in. Practice all 6 cuts and add them together in drills. You can use a dowel, a stick, a ruler, or anything you can find to use as a saber if you don't have one. Before we learn Moulinets, we'll look at our first guard position, medium or middle guard. It is the most common engaging guard position in any sword system. It doesn't block attacks effectively in saber, but it's a good middle ground for deciding what to do. It's from here that we'll practice Moulinets or sword rotations for powering our 6 cuts. There are 2 primary divisions of Moulinets, inside and outside. The inside is your chest and the outside is your back. Practice making each cut with both Moulinets. This way you always have every option in combat. Notice how the point of the saber drops down, does a circle, and follows one of the cut lines. An inside Moulinet is easier to do because all the fingers can help. However, for an outside Moulinet, you have to release pressure with all but the pointer and thumb to allow the sword to rotate. Once the sword hits the desired cut line, you tighten the bottom fingers to start the cut. You want Moulinets to be smooth. It's letting the sword power itself. Time with the sword is the best trainer for this. It will also be easier with swords than with a stick, due to the pommel being a counterweight. For majority of Moulinets, the sword will drop forwards to start. However, for cuts 3 and 4 done on the same side, you will use a reverse Moulinet, going backwards to start the Moulinet. Practice spinning the sword forwards in a circle on one side like an oar. Then pick a cut to make. Start with a large movement of bringing the sword over the head to learn cutting to the other side. There are now 2 other factors that go into your Moulinet, the first being the circle size. Practice making a small circle with the point, almost like a magic wand movement. Progressively make the circle wider and wider as you dip the point down. It can be done on one side and when switching sides. The second part that affects a Moulinet is the body rotation point. You just saw the wrist rotation point, which does its role but is a light impact. It is more difficult and less effective with heavier cutting focused blades. Next is the elbow, which gives a good medium ground of power and safety. It is also less tiring. It will hit harder and do significant damage through clothing, but exposes the arm. And the third rotation point is the shoulder. It will do significant damage and isn't tiring, but provides a large opening. It's standard in some systems, but using it frequently against Western military saber fighters often leads to double hits. Practice all 3 types and variations and put them into the previous drills. Wrist Moulinets are best for testing and engaging, staying safe with your first cuts. Once you think you might hit, or you want to make sure that to use a strong parry, use your elbow. And when you know you'll hit, use your shoulder to chop and hew limbs and appendages, ending the fight. Thanks for watching. Keep studying. Keep practicing.
Breathe.
What? Breathe or something?
No, I'm holding my breath unconsciously as I'm fighting.
Oh, okay.